All right. Welcome, a special edition of Allen Pridecast. I got our college president, John Masterson, to sit down with us, take a break from busy college business going on in the summer. Thank you, John. I appreciate this.
I appreciate the opportunity. I feel privileged to get in here when you've been talking with all these coaches and getting this thing down. I mean, this is great. I really appreciate it.
I didn't really have a plan of action. I was just kind of like, it'd be kind of cool to record, different coaches, different personalities. And then it went from coaches. I was like, let's start faculty. I was like, let's see if the president will do it. And here we are. So I definitely appreciate this. Kind of bring us up to speed. I guess briefly intro into your life before Allen.
Oh, wow.
Allen, before Allen.
Not all 76 years. Right?
Hey, if we got time. We got time.
You knew that I was born and raised in Iola, Kansas.
I knew that.
I'm a former Mustang, played football here, was a co-captain with Brett Lawrence on the Mustang football team, played baseball, American Legion. We didn't have high school baseball at that time. And went to Iola Junior College when it was in the third story of the high school. And then went from there to Emporia State and spent a lot of pine time on the football benches and the baseball benches. They made me a relief pitcher, and so I learned how to play cards and some of those things the relievers do. But enjoyed my experience at Emporia State. I had joined the Navy Reserves when I was still in high school, and came out, and I got out of Emporia State in 1967, which was right in the midst of Vietnam. So I went on active duty for 2 years, was aboard the USS Mount Katmai, which was a World War II vintage ammunition ship.
Okay.
And spent most of that time off the South China Sea. One of the biggest things, I guess, as a part of that was that when I first got assigned to the ship, I was in Port Chicago, California, and I was kind of moping around, I guess, and one of the officers said, "Masterson, what's the matter with you? You're not acting yourself." And I said, "Well, my wife's home. We're going to have a baby, and I'm going to miss out on that baby because we're getting ready to deploy." And he said, "Well, why don't you take a little bit of time off and go home?" And I said, "Well, I don't have any leave time built up." And he said, "Oh, you will before you get back." So I got to come home, and as fate would have it, the doctor, we went to the doctor, and he asked me if I would like to be here when that baby was born. And I said, "You mean you're going to get me out of this deployment?" And he said, "No." He said, "That baby's ready to come, and if you want to," he said, "well, we can try to induce labor." And so my son was born while I was still home.
That's cool.
And the only bad part about that was the day that he and my wife got to come home from the hospital. I got to get on an airplane and go back to California, and he was 9 months old then when I did get back from that first deployment. But the Navy was an interesting experience. It's like my dad. My dad was a Navy guy, and he said, "I wouldn't take $1 million for the experience, but I wouldn't give you a nickel to do it again." And I guess I understand that a little bit. I got out of the service, and my wife had gone back to college and was finishing up. And I thought, well, I'll just find something to do around Emporia for a while, and got a job with the railroad there. And then had a friend who worked in the dean's office, and he said, "Oh, John, I got the great job for you." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "You and your wife could be house parents in a residence hall." And I said, "Well, what kind of residence hall?" He said, "It's men's residence hall, freshman men." And I said, "Well, I just got off a boat with 265 of them. I guess I could handle that." So we moved into an apartment, which our little apartment on the campus reminds me so much of that place. I get deja vu every time I walk in that door. And but we did that for a year. I finished my master's degree. My wife finished her baccalaureate degree, and then I got an offer to stay on with the student affairs department. and I was in charge of on-campus housing.
Okay.
And I did that until 1973, and I got to be real good friends with a football coach. And I was a physical education major as an undergraduate. I got my graduate degree in guidance and counseling with the thought in the back of my mind I was going to coach. And that coaching bug wouldn't let up on me. And so I had a friend in one of my graduate classes that was an accounting teacher at Allen. And in fact, his wife was also, she taught the secretarial sciences. And got talking with him, and he said, "Hey, I think we got an opening for director of guidance at our place." And he said, "I know that's what you're getting your degree in." I said, "Yeah, Joe, I really got the coaching bug. I want to coach." And he said, "What do you want to coach?" And I said, "Football or baseball. Those are my two favorite sports." And he said, "Well, I tell you what, I'm the baseball coach right now, and I really want to teach." And so he said, "Why don't you apply, and we'll talk to him about it." And I did, and so in 1973, then I moved to Allen, and had been associated with the college one way or another. But I came here as a coach and director of guidance, and the other parts of my job. That's kind of funny too, and you'll understand this. I was also the admissions department, all of it.
Heard that.
I was the only counselor on staff. I taught 8 sections of educational vocational planning, which was a freshman orientation course. I was the foreign student advisor, and at that time we had about 30 foreign students from all over everywhere. And I also taught adult driver education. And I could tell you some stories about that too at a later time.
I bet.
But
you're live to tell them at least.
Yeah. But that kind of got me started here, and I served in that capacity. I've served as dean of students and athletic director. I've served as the business officer, and then in 1992 I took over as a president.
So you're college president. Your thoughts? You decided to be. You got the college presidency. I feel like when you drive up to your campus as a college president, you look at the campus as this is me. This is me. I'm sure sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It depends on what day.
Sure.
But how long did the honeymoon last? The honeymoon phase last, and did it end quick? When did reality set in? It's like, okay, it's cool being president, but I got to get to work.
Well, Vince, I'll tell you what. See, I had been here a long time.
Yeah.
I got here in '73. I got to know all the folks and one thing and another, and actually, the way I became a president was kind of
on the board, right?
Almost by accident. Well, actually, when I was the president, I was I had been on the board of trustees. Well,
okay.
I guess a piece of my life that I left out was the fact that I had an opportunity to go into banking after 4 years of coaching and being out here, and I grew up without a great deal of money in my family, and I thought bankers were rich. And so when I had the opportunity to go to a bank as an officer, I thought, it was one of those deals. I thought, you hear guys always say, it's for my family. I had to do that for my family because I was loving my job. I loved coaching. Yeah. I loved doing what I was doing. And it was a very difficult decision for me, but honestly, I just thought this is something I need to do for my family. And what I finally found out was that once I got there, the guys that own those banks are rich. The guys that work in the banks, no, it was a great job, and I still appreciate it. Still maintain contact with a lot of those folks. Learned a great deal from it that I still apply to my life and to this job.
You're essentially, with college and managing a college, I don't want to say it's like a bank, but you are dealing with a lot of bank terminology, a lot of bank business. You think, a president of the college, you have to have a business mindset, and we'll dive into that, here shortly. Do you recall the state of the college when you became president? Buildings, facilities.
Well, it's like a lot of things. You grow or die.
Yeah.
Really. And so the big deal for colleges is your enrollment. Mm-hmm. And you've got to have the students, and so you've got to look to see where they're coming from and and where they could come from possibly. And that's been one of the biggest changes that I've seen over my years as
eras,
a president.
right?
Absolutely. And when I first started, it was pretty much this campus.
Yeah.
Then we had just opened our satellite campus at Burlingame, which is just 20 miles south of Topeka.
Were you one of the first community colleges to try the satellite campus?
We were.
I heard I had read or heard something about that. What was the thought in that? Like, what were you guys' thoughts going into that?
Well, I tell you, we had a president who was only here for 2 years. His name was Ron Gardner.
Yeah.
One of the smartest, hardest working men I have ever known in my life. I still have so much admiration for him. He was so bright and so creative. He sat down, and on the back of, he was very frugal as well. On the back of used paper, he wrote a Title III grant for $1.75 million, pretty much by himself. I mean, we all contribute a little bit, but the idea of a northern tier satellite was Ron's idea, and I just got to do it for him. He was only here 2 years and left, and I've always appreciated the fact, because it had such an impact on our college, because it was immediately successful.
You see, like, copycats all around now.
You bet.
And I came in later, and I had no idea how it got started. And
exactly.
You see all these different locations, so they were kind of copycat programs.
It was a great experience. It's still a great place. The next thing down the line, though, was our online programs. And as I watched what was going, Kansas is what goes on the East Coast and West Coast kind of finally gets to Kansas.
Yeah.
And so they were starting, especially some of the colleges on the West Coast were starting to do some things with online education. And our satellite campus in Burlingame was primarily a commuter campus, primarily adults from Topeka driving the 20 miles to Burlingame, mostly at night, to take a class or two to try to improve their lot in life. And when I saw that, I thought, whoa, here's the next thing. This is even more convenient. You can do this Sunday evening in your bunny slippers if you want to, and you don't have to. We had lots of moms who were coming back and trying to get a college education, and they would have to figure out, okay, how am I going to get the family fed and do my job and go every Tuesday and Thursday night down to Burlingame.
Yeah.
Well, online education offered the opportunity to not have to deal with that question anymore. And so it's impacted actually our enrollment at Burlingame much more than it has this campus, which is pretty much traditional, but it's grown from this. I think our first online class was the spring semester of 2000. And so 20 years is half of our enrollment.
I know, yeah. And you've got a chance to see the analog era, the digital era, the internet boom, because that was when I was going into high school and college.
Right.
And I had no idea online existed. I was at the Southwestern College. I didn't take any online. Had I known about online, I would have loved that.
Sure.
The convenience of it.
And you know me, they tease me enough about how not technical that I am. and obviously I understand what's going on and those kind of things. And I understood the concept and what that thing had to offer, what online education, that whole thing had to offer to our people who are time-bound and place-bound especially. But even, we've adapted it, as you're aware, to our athletes.
Yeah. It seems like as technology and the video and the phone, like you're able to start integrating, video, and because I do love the face-to-face, the hands-on. You feel like you're talking to someone, and you don't want to just there's some classes that I think you'll lose a lot of the learning if you just strictly online. But now the hybrid with technology, you've been able to adapt from a whole era. It seemed like educationally,
and it just keeps getting better.
It does.
And I love the fact that when we first got into this thing, I told the troops, I said, if we're face to face as good as Neosho and Fort Scott, we're golden around here. Online, you got to be better than everybody.
Yeah.
You know, it's one click and they can go anywhere they want to go. So we've kind of taken our time. We've tried to do it right. Our folks are all trained before they are ever even allowed to teach an online class for us. You know that.
I got thrust into that. We'll touch on that one. I got thrusted in that big time. Big time.
But it's fantastic because it adds something to your repertoire that they're not going to take away from you. You know, that experience. So it's but it's the changes have been very, very dramatic. But they're the kinds of things where if you're aware, sometimes I forget. I think, guys, here we are in little Iola, Kansas, and we're probably 10 years behind everybody else. And I'll go to a conference someplace and have people bragging about doing things. They just started doing something that we've been doing for 10 years, you know, and I go, wow, you know, maybe we are up to date in Kansas City, you know?
Yeah. So, coming into your 29th year as president, what keeps you motivated as president? What keeps you getting up and wanting to be a better version of yourself? Does that make sense?
It does. Man,
it's hard. It's a hard question to think about.
It is, but I tell you, I think we do so much good. I love community colleges. I love this community college. You've heard me say this a million times, but in our mission statement, we talk about providing a quality education in a caring atmosphere. Those two things are so important. Quality is not an easy task. You have to work at quality, and you know you're a quality coach, Vince, and you have quality results. And a caring atmosphere, to me, is what makes us different from a lot of other places. I think that we have a caring atmosphere between each other, between the faculty and the staff, and then I think that helps us to have that caring atmosphere with students. And they're the center of our universe. I mean, they are the reason that we're here. I enjoy students. You know, summer, I've never really been crazy about summers and summer school because the students are gone.
Yeah.
And it's just long and it's work. You know, you do the same kind of thing, but it's work. But you can't go in the hall and get those smiles and get those kids joking and those kind of things. And so that's part of what's been so long about our station right now. Summer school started in March.
Yeah,
and,
my academic clock, I feel like it's expired. I keep thinking, I was telling someone the other day, I was like, I kept thinking, I was like, okay, the season's like my 8 to 9 weeks of summer, whatever. I was like, but it's June. It's just started. Right. And I'm thinking, I was like, I'm getting restless myself.
Yeah.
You know, so it's been definitely something. When I had left, I came back and, you know, Masterson Hall came in. Now, I know this sounds, how humbling is it knowing that once you're gone, you know, and while I'm gone, that building's still going to be there. How humbling is that knowing that you'll forever be recognized?
Well, it's tremendously humbling, especially to a guy that doesn't take himself tremendously seriously. And in fact, when the Board of Trustees told me they were going to do that, I sobered up and I looked at them and I said, now, you know, it's been my experience in higher education that to get a building named after you, you either have to give an exorbitant amount of money or die.
That's what I was going to say. Like you're alive and you get to see it.
I hope you're not expecting either one of those out of me, because if you are, we'll just name her Sunshine Hall. But no, I joke about it, but it is I'm so proud of that hall, and I'm so proud that they wanted to name it after me, and I try to keep my nose clean enough that they won't regret naming it after me in the future.
Kind of changing things around. You know, you're a president, you mentioned athletics, you were a coach, and also academics. Now, I've been in this conference region for 15 years. I've been to those AD president meetings. As a president, you have seen a lot of changes in this conference region amongst the other schools and other regions. You know, you're currently the longest running president of all the other presidents in this region and conference. You know, have you been able to, how are you able to keep thinking about the future versus doing things for the right now? And you kind of understand, you know, you'll see a president, like I mentioned with Dr. Pat and you, how you're wanting to build what you have now. Do you find it hard trying to keep up with the Joneses? Because it seems like some presidents and ADs, and I'm speaking freely with this, on my side, you'll see someone come in and want to build or do a bunch of changes, and I personally feel like, is that for you or is that for the community college that you're at? Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I feel like, and speaking from this is me speaking, I feel like as a president, you have a duty to take what you have and secure that future when you're gone. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, when you give that, you're giving that set of keys, you want to make sure that there's still something there to lock up when you leave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's, in athletics, I don't know whether you know this or not, but I'm just completing my 4th time as the president of the Jayhawk Conference. There's not going to be anybody else.
When I was over there, you were.
This is my fourth trip through, and I appreciate and love athletics. There are some things I've always felt that you learn through athletics. You can't. I won't say can't, but it's very difficult to learn otherwise. Great work ethic and honesty, and you name it. Yeah. But it can get way, way, way too important to people. And when I say that, I mean winning gets way, way, way too important.
Without the financial benefit of, because you see in the you see in the high level. We talked about this before.
Yeah.
When you see at Division I's, they have the advertising, the contracts. You get money back. So I can see where, hey, you win such and such and such, you're going to get back.
Yeah. At
our level, we don't have broadcasting contracts. You don't have,
exactly.
I don't say BCS dollars. I know that's the old format. You see that trend, and I know you guys, as the president ADs in 2018, there was a big overhaul with scholarships and changing, sure. And I was weary of it because I thought to myself, what's the, why are we changing this?
Right.
And how is that shift?
Well, actually, when I first got involved with the conference, the two things that I appreciated so much about it was the fact that the scholarship level of books and tuition across the entire conference had a certain amount of giving us a chance to be competitive with the bigger schools.
Yeah.
And even the limitations, at that time they had limitations on basketball and football of the number of out-of-state, or now international students.
Yeah.
Then international student would have been an anomaly. But and what that did again was, if I can only go find 5 out-of-state kids and you can only go find 5 out-of-state kids, then we're going to hunt real hard in-state. We're going to hunt real hard locally, and then I saw as the rest. See, when I first started coaching football, I didn't have any scholarships, none in the wind. Yeah. So I had what I called the Westphalia Wonder Boys. I had four students from Westphalia, Kansas, and your folks that are viewing this can look on a map and find it. I
know where that's at.
But north, I mean, they were great baseball players too. But there was a lot better chance for kids that were fairly local to be able to participate, and certainly great chances for Kansas kids to participate. I like that piece of it, and I wish we would have adapted and adopted when baseball started getting scholarships to do that.
Yeah.
When track and field started getting scholarships to do that, to again get us to kind of look at how do we get lots of Kansas kids involved in this. But then you exit that year into 2018, where we're talking about no limits.
Yeah, we went from
whatsoever.
One spectrum to the next. I even thought
full rides.
Yeah, I even thought I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
because it I get you have to change with times and you have to be active and but you also at the same time you don't want to sell the house and everything you've built and worked for what exactly?
Right.
Exactly. And I then you see the state of Kansas getting involved and legislation starts, you start seeing those things get involved.
Yeah.
And hopefully there's discussions, and I know not part of those meetings, but everyone takes a step back and say, okay, what's a happy medium? You know, and
Right.
I know as a president, you know, kind of going into, you know, the academic side of things as well, you know, how do you keep yourself from making decisions solely based on the wants of other schools or a trend? You know, how are you been able to step back and say, what's best for the school after I'm gone versus I'm going to do this for myself and pad my resume? How have you been able to, to stay that way?
Well, one thing is I've never been worried about padding that resume because I love it here. I've never wanted to leave here. The way I came into the presidency, actually, I had never had a burning, you know, desire to be a president, but the guy I was serving at the time decided it was time for him to leave, and the board of trustees at the time asked me if I would take the presidency on an interim basis, and I said sure. And then they didn't go after a hunt. They didn't hunt, and I finally said, "Are you guys gonna get somebody in here?" And they said, "Well, we're thinking about if you want to do
tricked.
it."
You were tricked.
Yeah.
29. You were tricked into being president.
Dadgummit, you know.
Yeah.
But honestly, I got thinking about it, and I thought, well, geez, you know, I'm either going to have this procession of guys coming through here because we're a relatively small college with you know, like everything else. I don't get paid as much as somebody like the guy at Johnson County or whatever, which has never bothered me.
No.
That's not what I live for.
You had the same pickup truck forever. Do you still have the Ford Ranger? Do you still?
No, it died.
Oh no!
It died.
I still have mine. I still have it.
I know you do. I envy you. I
want to buy it. No,
I might.
Just kidding.
You know, but people all over town that used to, the minute they saw me, they'd be waving. Now I'm driving this little new deal.
You don't look. No, you look out of no offense.
Nobody knows who I am. I'm incognito now. So yeah.
I always when I first worked here, I was like, he's got a Ranger too.
Yeah.
You know, I was like. You know, and those Rangers last a long time.
I loved it. I bought it
too.
It was a whole prize at a golf tournament I was in for a hole-in-one, and so every time I'd go by that hole, and I probably didn't even hit the green, let alone get a hole-in-one, but every time I go by there, I'd look at that thing, and I thought, man, I'd really like this, and I needed a vehicle, so. Once that golf tournament was over, I went down to the Ford place and I said, okay, this thing did what it was supposed to do. How much you want for it? That was in 2000. And I drove her till 2019 and broke my heart when I had...
how many miles were on it?
82,000.
Oh.
You know, it's only 2 miles.
Oh, you got it with 82,000.
No.
Oh, no,
I put 82,000 on it in 19 years.
Okay. Oh, man. It was heartbreaking. I
got the cheap insurance rate, you know, because it'd say if you drive under so many miles, your rate goes down. Well, I was under whatever mileage that was, but yeah, that was a fun little truck. I miss it.
How you've handled, you know, growing the college and everything. Whenever you've built the Masterson Hall, you built the sixplex. That was the first time I seen community colleges with apartment styles. You know, I was that, which was at the time. I think I don't know what you guys have when you guys did that. If that was the norm or if that was the direction everything headed.
That was upscale.
It was. When I left, I was like, they got what? And I was like, well, that's not going to work. And next thing you know, I come back, I was like, man, I like those apartment things.
Yeah.
That was kind of the trend. Now, the direction of how you've led this college, it enabled you guys to really do a great job with that student center. Bilderback and I were talking about that, and you know, come out later on. How was that opening a $6 million student center? Because it's not just for students. You've been able to open it to the community as well. That was the coolest thing about this. Community college builds a community facility used by the community and its students.
Yeah.
Well, what was that like, that process?
I will tell you, I wish I could claim that I drew it up in one thing or another, but we got lots of input. We had Ryan Bilderback that you mentioned worked real closely with our students. What I wanted was something where the students would go. What do you want in it? How do you want it to look? You know, what kind of play areas and those kind of things do you want? And they were great at helping us, gave us some great ideas, great suggestions. We acted on them. We talked a good deal to our coaching staff and the people that are with the students a lot, and came up with some great ideas. Lloyd Builders that we used, and the folks from Wichita that helped us furnish it and kind of design it, helped a great deal. We took 2 or 3 trips. The study rooms that we have over there, that came from a trip to Ottawa University, and they had just redone their student center, and we were walking by, and I see these glassed-in areas that students are in there, and it's quiet inside, but they don't feel like they're isolated, you know. And we put those in, and I thought, gosh, I hope those students use it. They're full all the time.
I've used them.
Yeah.
How do you see me? I'll hibernate or try to go away and get out of the office and go there and work.
Yeah, it's just the Stadler conference room is perfect size and has so great flexibility. We've got round tables and square tables and just chairs depending on how many people. The cafeteria is beautiful. The boardroom is wonderful.
It's amazing.
I've never been more proud of a project that we've had on this campus in the 29 years.
What was it like? And Bilderback and I kind of touched base on what was it like seeing faculty and staff playing pool and table tennis with students? That was the surprise for me. Is I'd spend more time. I'm like, I'm going to go play some pool, and you run the table, running the kids off the table. The interaction, that was the surprise. And I know Bilderback said the same thing, was seeing how it integrated your faculty and staff with your students. So it made it more of a family environment.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, with the use that we get from Rotary Club and Kiwanis Club and the Retired Teachers Association, all the folks that come in, and then that large group of folks that have started eating at our cafeteria, because, folks, I'm going to tell you what, we got the best restaurant in town.
It is.
Maybe in the state. I don't know. Cindy Stanberry, our director, is wonderful. That food service is it's not your old dorm food. I will guarantee you.
And she listens to like the likes, dislikes, and she tries to. She's not going to sacrifice, going completely off the reservation, but she'll find out what the trends are, and she'll see that you can have it, because it is some of the only place that kids are going to eat. And so I've heard her, take suggestions and really change and kind of get the feel for, you have the international students that like certain foods that they don't have. I've seen she has brought those out, we'll touch on that, but
she loves her students.
That has been fun to see. And I can't talk about how much you guys did a huge, amazing job on that. Like I told Bilderback, I was like, I've been eating there. I went through my tickets in one semester, beforehand I never touched those tickets. And now I'm like, we need more tickets for these staff, but it's been an amazing, you guys did an amazing job on that.
Thank you. As I said, great cooperation, lots of input on that thing, and it turned out to be my favorite project I've ever been working on.
Okay. You came here right when the Gulf War ended.
Yeah.
However, you were president during a flashbulb memory for myself and anyone else who was around that time, 9/11. Right. I could remember literally where I was at. I was going to my 8 a.m. class, and I just happened to turn TV on and witnessed it all. You were president here. Take us through that. That was life altering.
It was. I came to work that morning and walked in, and Bob Barkley, who was an individual who taught chemistry here for 35 years, and then for about another 15 or more ran our campus services office, was in his office, and he had a television in there, and he said, hey, there's an airplane that just ran into the building in New York, the Twin Towers, one of the Twin Towers in New York. And I said, really? So I went in and kind of watched that, and I thought, oh my gosh, how tragic. And
I thought it was an accident at first.
I did too. So did everyone.
Until you see the live.
Yeah, right. But then when the second one hit, everybody knew it was not. And, we were shocked, and you tried to figure out who on earth would do something like this. And, then you saw the company or the country kind of come together, and there was an effort to go after who did this kind of thing, kind of that's America.
Revenge. We're Americans.
Revenge. We're going to
eye for an eye.
But and then as we worked through that, and there was a great deal of support for the efforts in Afghanistan and one thing and another, and we kind of got things back to normal, I guess, whatever that meant. And next thing I know, we're pulling off that and going to Iraq, and that caused me a lot of questioning of our administration at that time and what was going on and the young men and women's lives that were being, the first one I could kind of understand as a former military guy.
The Desert Shield storm?
Yeah.
The Gulf?
And I guess the way I explained it to somebody was that somebody said, okay, Masterson, they're going to call up every person, veteran, and we're going to form an army and we're going to go to Afghanistan. I would have went, oh, man, I don't want to go to Afghanistan, but okay. If they'd have told me I was going to Iraq, I'd say, no, maybe you better put me in Leavenworth because I'm not going over there. But it was a monumental thing for our country, a changing time. I saw that the children who were born in 9/11 and then had to endure some of the other kinds of things, as they get older, and you think, oh my gosh, give these guys a break. This has not been a pleasant world for them in some ways, and moving on into the current kind of
that kind of was leading into
pandemic.
You dealt with H1N1 swine flu. I was over at the other school when I was there, and I do remember like what swine, like huh? And it wasn't on the scale of it. Now this hits, and as a president, like take us back to March, and it seemed like you were hearing things hourly and different things were changing, and it was almost like you were having to try to react to what you just heard, and then when you reacted, like, oh wait, hold on, ignore what I just said, change it to this. Right. What was that as a president? And I know, kind of take us through that whole thing with, the campus, the safety of everyone. How was that handled? And I know I touched on with Bilderberg, but what about as a president?
Well, as you said, it came on us very quickly. There was a Wednesday night. We did a conference call amongst the presidents and Heather Morgan, who's the executive director of the Kansas Association of Community College Trustees, and we were talking about this pandemic that they had the medical folks had said was coming, and we had to do something to protect our students and our communities. And the very next day, we went up to the Phi Theta Kappa all Kansas academic team. They have a big luncheon there, big buffet luncheon. We're all crammed into this big ballroom, face to face and all these kind of things. And they were already talking about some ways that this was transmitted. And the presidents got together and talked that day. I was thankful that this happened. When it did, I guess, or that at least the Academic All Kansas group got together at that time, because it gave us a chance to sit down and say, well, what are you going to do? And
face to face and bounce ideas. Yeah.
And we spent all day talking about that. And when we came home, and on Friday, of course, we got our administrative team together and the folks around here and made the decisions that we were going to have to get our kids, and they were going on spring break.
Timing of it was a little, it was good and bad.
Exactly.
It was good that you got them out of here.
Yeah.
Without interrupting classes, because spring break, so you almost had like a free week to figure out, okay, now what's the next step? You got like a buffer week, but the problem is all their stuff's here.
Exactly. And there was, as I said before, so I stepped back, and this sounds crazy, but it's not. I'd look at our mission a lot and help it determine what I'm going to do. And as I said a little while ago, our mission says we're going to deliver quality education in a caring atmosphere. Well, first of all, if we care, we're going to have to keep our kids safe.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have to determine, okay, how do we deliver this quality? Well, as I said, we've got a really, really strong online education program. Great majority of our students at some point or another take an online class, or maybe take lots of them. And so our teachers were prepared. They all, if it was a psychology teacher, they had probably taught psychology online as well as face-to-face. And so it was just adapting. And I was so proud of the way that our campus responded to that whole thing. We didn't just run the kids out of the residence halls. In fact, we had 25 that stayed. We had some kids from New York City, and things were not good in New York City.
So sending them back to that environment would be detrimental to the mission statement you just stated. You're trying to do what's best for them.
Exactly. We had some of our international students that couldn't go back.
Get out.
Yeah, and so we said, don't worry about that. We'll figure it out. And we did, and we kind of waded through that. And as I said, our food service took great care of those that had to stay. We had I can remember a student telling us, I have no place to go.
Well, as a parent, okay. And we had parents who were calling us.
Sure.
Some of those parents were telling the kids, I'd rather have you in Iola, Kansas versus Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
Because I know you're safe there.
Yes.
And I don't want to say we've kind of avoided the rush of it all, but we kind of, being in a small town, I don't want to say middle of nowhere because it is in the middle of nowhere, but being in this environment gave us an opportunity to kind of shield.
It did.
So that was a good safety net for those kids.
And they had been here all the time.
Yeah.
They weren't increasing the chances of anybody getting sick, and so we went through that and we made that turn. And honestly, I've talked to a lot of my colleagues about how dramatic this was for them and one thing and another, and I can tell you that our folks did a fantastic job with this from an academic standpoint of making sure that the concepts that they were being taught in their classes got done. And we had a lot of high school students, and I've had parents tell me, probably shouldn't disclose this. Sorry, high school students. I'm not ratting you out.
No HIPAA violations here.
Right? Yeah, but I've had several of the parents say that if they were taking one of our classes, they stayed right on top of it and got all the work done. The other classes that they were taking, maybe not so much. And I hate that for them. It's been, I just have a hollow spot in my stomach for our students, your kids that missed running, our baseball, softball.
Yeah,
theater.
It was weird. It was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. I know, talking to baseball, and I'm going to talk to softball tomorrow, your season had just started.
Exactly.
And I know we had just finished with indoor nationals, and I hate to admit, I was kind of laughing at this whole Corona thing. I wasn't taking it serious at the time, but then I got back, I was like, oh boy, this is serious.
Yeah, some people, and part of it was living in our little bubble in Iola, Kansas, and Allen Community College, and at that point, I think last week we had our first positive test in Allen County for this. So it's been different for us, but those folks in New York City and even in Wyandotte County in Kansas haven't had this same thing. They've had people that they've lost, loved ones that they've lost, and people that have been very, very ill. And I just thank God that to this point we've been able to avoid that, and I hope that continues. Yeah. But we're preparing.
That kind of leads me into my next question for you. Being the president, a resident of Allen Community College, a resident of Iola, Kansas, what are some of your thoughts on regarding the safety of the students and faculty, and then obviously members of the community? Because I know you guys have had meetings, and you guys have done a lot to prepare for that. Take us through that, because that is a big question.
It is. It's probably one of the most difficult decisions that I've made in my entire career. It worries me. I know that everyone wants to come back, and my biggest dream is that this fall we're able to come back, have athletics going again, have our residence halls wide open, have our classes so that we can adapt, and that's our plan. There's people out there a lot smarter than I am that are trying to look at this thing and help us determine, are we safe?
Yeah.
Or what do we need to do to be safe? Or can we be safe? You know, there's certain the CDC has indicated they put out some information on how to come back to college, and basically one of the things that they've said is the safest way is all online.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Been doing that since the day.
Yeah. The next safest way is to make sure that you still do the social distancing, that you put on masks if you're going to be inside, and these kind of things, that you heighten your sanitary kinds of things, that the old one, you wash your hands every now and then. That's a great one. But all of these help some, and if they can help make us safe, then we're going to get behind it.
Yeah.
Now, there's some folks right now, they're saying we're going to come in the fall, and we're going to blow through the fall. We're going to go through whatever their fall break schedule is and those kind of things, and we're going to leave right after Thanksgiving or right before Thanksgiving for Thanksgiving break, and then you're going to take your finals online. And then what I've heard about second semester is they're planning to come back somewhere around the 1st of February, not go to spring break, and go to May and hopefully get through the year. Well, guess what? That big swath in the middle, that's when the virus is supposed to come. I don't know that virus has the same clock as they do. You know, say, oh, wait a minute, it's almost Thanksgiving. We've got to get busy, kind of thing. And so, to me, and I shouldn't make light of it, because I'm sure they've given it a great deal of thought, and they may be right and I may be wrong. But my intent is to come back, and what I told our troops is that we have 3 months or 4 to kind of look at any holes that we had in last spring's delivery, how we delivered, how we got students home, how we did the ones that couldn't go home, how we took care of them, and to devise a plan for next fall that says, if that happens, if the virus decides it's going to come in October or September, or it doesn't come until February, that we could still make that turn on a dime, like our faculty and staff did last spring, and deliver our quality education in a caring atmosphere.
Yeah, you got to get that mission state. Oh yeah. And I know, you're kind of to keep it to, as a member of the community, you have a duty to this community.
Absolutely.
You're a member. What do you say to the community members who might be a little apprehensive or uneasy about bringing kids from the college? And I know hopefully they watch this and listen to this as well, to say, hey, you are thinking of them with your decisions. You're thinking of every single thing and scenario that's going to happen to prevent.
Our faculty and staff are a part of this community, and they're people I love, Vince. I mean, that.
Yeah.
And if a decision that I would make would cause harm, I don't know, it'd be tough to get through something like that. And I know that there are no right or wrong answers. You're going to also have to have some luck and be able to make those decisions in a really quick way sometimes, based sometimes on gut feeling. And I've been fortunate enough in my life, in many instances, I've relied on gut decisions. And when I haven't done what my gut tells me, I will guarantee you there's more times when I wished I would have than when I followed my gut feeling. But
your gut feeling also comes on the back of facts.
Well, yes, it does. Hopefully, yes.
You've taken the time to research. You haven't just taken you back from the building of the college, the financial security of the college, all the way back to since you've been a president, you haven't done things without taking in facts.
Yeah, I hope I try.
Yeah. You've tried to do things in with regards to, okay, how is this going to affect the future?
Right.
And so, I don't want to say just gut feeling, because I think your gut feeling has facts behind it. And it makes it a little easier for you to make a gut feeling when you've done the research.
You're exactly right. And I do a lot of reading and looking and those kind of things, but I also rely a lot on, as I said, people I think are smarter than me and to help me make those decisions. Kind
of switching up, what message do you have for students who are graduating from high school? 2020, what they had to endure all this. Who are coming here to Allen.
You have my sympathy. For one thing, I feel so badly, as I said, that you missed your last play and your graduation and your baseball season. I have a nephew that is a baseball coach, a local baseball coach, and this was going to be his last year, and he had a great group of kids. He was so excited about that, and they lost their whole season. So, I feel badly that you've lost this opportunity, but be resilient. Let's go through this. Let's continue to look at your education and how you can prepare for that. Because we are going to be here. This college is going to be here either in a very, very good quality online program, or a very, very excellent program that is in a satellite campus in Burlingame, or absolutely on this campus in Iola, Kansas. We're going to be here with quality education, and we're going to deliver it in a caring way to you, and we would love that opportunity.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I could have said it better myself. But I appreciate it. Other than that, I know we've got leadership program coming in. We got diversity task force. We got things on campus that are going to help kids, have a voice.
You bet.
And that's essentially, I think that's where it starts, is allowing people to feel comfortable to voice their concerns or voice their opinions. And you always want to be careful. I know when it comes to opinions, you want to be careful because you don't want it to take a negative route or negative direction.
Sure.
You want it to be all positive, but you want to ensure that someone has a voice,
and it's real.
It's real.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I just some of the student leaders that we've had. In fact, our last two presidents have absolutely blown me away, and I was so looking forward to Lexi Turntine's graduation talk, as a representative of the student body, and her as the student senate leader. She was a special young lady. I met her when she first got here because we were fortunate enough. She received one of our scholarships that we have in the Endowment Association, and so when they had the scholarship luncheon, she came up afterwards and introduced herself and thanked us for the scholarship, and she left. And I turned to my wife, I said, "That is one sharp young lady." I underestimated that. I mean, she is. She's let me know that she's headed for Northwestern in the fall. We're all keeping our fingers crossed that everything works, because Northwestern is high dollar place, but it is prestigious to get in there, and I'm so thrilled for her. She can change the world. She and the students like her will change our world, and I just, if she gets a law degree, and that's what her ultimate goal is.
Yeah.
You're going to read about her someplace. She is so smart.
All right. Continuing, as a president, what's going on now with the race and diversity in our society? Like many colleges, you want to ensure that our campus is a place for everyone, whether regardless of color of skin, ethnic beliefs, where you're from, international American. You want them to come in and be able to feel like they can thrive.
You bet.
And we are a small campus, but we are such a diverse campus because of the different sports. Some sports bring international, some sports bring, we bring kids from California, Texas, East Coast, West Coast, all over, and that's what makes it nice, having that small environment. What kinds of campus programs and things that are in place and as a president that you like to see?
Well, I guess the first thing I would say is one of my joys in life over these years is having the opportunity to meet so many different young people.
Yeah.
And not just young people, but our staff, the diversity in our staff. I wish it was more diverse, but we're a small town in Kansas, and we try our best. But it's just been, and to learn from those kids, because once they get to know you, then they're more comfortable in talking with you about some of their trials and tribulations and those kind of things.
Coming to Iola, Kansas is a small environment.
Oh my gosh!
And I don't want to interrupt you, but you think of that too, because they're coming from a big city.
Exactly.
They're coming to here,
and it's way different for them too.
Yes, it is a culture shock.
You can see. I've known some of our kids that have come from some really tough places, and you can kind of see gradually them feeling safer and safer to the point that
they become less tense.
They acclimate to Iola, Kansas, and it's fantastic to see that. And I still, I'll never forget this. My basketball coach and I were visiting, and he got a telephone call. This was during the summer, probably in July, and he looked at his phone and he said, "It's Tariq," a young man who played guard for him. And so he talked to him for a while, a very serious conversation, not much joking around. And when he finished, he said, Tariq and one of his friends last night were just walking on the street, and a car came by and fired gunshots and killed his friend.
Oh, jeez.
And he wants to come back. He doesn't feel safe at home. He wants to come back to Iola and wants to know if we can get him. And he said, I told him, you get on a bus and come back here and we'll find you a job. We'll do some things this summer. And he did. But I've always remembered that and thought, oh my gosh, how different that is for some of our kids to grow up. And it's as you said, with our international students to learn about their countries and about some of the things that they've got going. It's just, and it's been so helpful for me in my own personal growth and those kinds of things. And then you run into things like that have happened in the last several months, highlighted, I guess. They've been happening forever. And on and on. And you think, well, finally we're going to get someplace, and you don't get someplace. But I think this is different. I do too. I see a difference happening.
I hope they actually listen and not just listen and then and then go back. No, I hope changes are going to be made.
And it seems like we were talking earlier about a couple of weeks ago we had a Black Lives Matter rally on the Iola Square, and it was great turnout. There were like 250 people. People were social distancing. They were wearing masks. They were being safe, and people were invited out of there were some folks who were lined up to talk, and one of them was one of my favorite people, and the wife of one of our board of trustees who spent 27 years on the board, was one of my mentors and one of my guys that helped me learn about some of the things that folks of color have to go through. But Helen Ambler, his wife, she's the boss, and and she was one of the first speakers and set the tone. But part of that was sad for me because of why we had to have it. But part of it was satisfying to me because several of the speakers, just of their own volition and from the heart, complimented our police force and their interactions that they'd had with our police force, and it gave me some hope, that maybe we can start in a little bitty Iola, Kansas, and move on out. And I'll tell you, Vince, one of the powerful things to me in that whole occasion was one of the events that they did is they had us all lie on our stomachs, And at 76, that's not as easy to get down on the ground as it used to be. Put our arms behind us, as the individual was that this was all about this time. And we stayed there for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And
how uncomfortable was
it?
That?
Was terribly uncomfortable.
And now,
but I thought, how much more uncomfortable would it been if I had somebody weigh 200 pounds with their knee in my neck?
Yeah.
And then I also thought, literally and figuratively, no one has their knee in my neck.
Yeah.
You know, and how that has to weigh on people, and how they. It's like my friend Spencer Ambler and the trustee, how forgiving they are. And I keep thinking, could I have been that forgiving and not been bitter and those kind of things? And so again, to me, we can't have that caring atmosphere at our college if we are prejudiced against people because of their race, or because of their sexual orientation, or because of their sex, or we have to be a welcoming institution that people can be who they are and be proud of it. And that's what I hope that we convey to our students and our staff, and support that. And again, maybe we make our small little mark on the world, and people are able to go through that situation and get that feeling at Allen Community College, and then go on their own ways and help to deliver that same message. And
it starts with speaking up and speaking out, and not, it can be easy for you just not to say anything. Well, that's not me. I don't do that. But that's also the problem.
Yes,
is
exactly.
And I had an experience myself. My own son, he was 6 years old, and he's always playing with the athletes and whatnot.
Sure.
And I'm sitting there watching him as he's playing with one of the athletes, and he didn't know the kid's name. It was a Hispanic kid, and he goes, "Hey, brown kid. Hey, brown guy."
Yeah.
I hopped up out of that chair so fast and went flying over, and felt at that moment, it was a teachable moment. It's like, Blaine, we don't address anybody by the color of skin, no matter what color. You say, "Excuse me, what is your name?" And he had no idea.
Sure.
No idea whatsoever.
Right.
I'm sorry, Dad. Hey, what's your name? And the kid said his name, but that is where it starts. Is addressing those, whether it's negative or positive. You speak up.
Exactly.
Educate.
Exactly.
And, my wife, she never raised her children to no color. To treat everyone as a person, and it just starts speaking out. And it takes one person to just continue to, and at some point, you like to think that it's going to make a difference.
Absolutely.
And, you can't guarantee it, because there's going to be people out there that are going to make it rough. But if your voice is louder than theirs, and you have more voices, it will drive those individuals away. And it just takes time. It just literally takes one person after another. And
if you're willing to repeat your message, regardless of the outcome, time over time, it'll have a positive impact.
It will
sooner or later.
Yeah. So I was cool to hear that and see that in Iola, and I was wondering. I was skeptic, because I was small Iola. Who's going to show up to that?
Sure.
And that was my first thought. And then when you hear 250 people, that's a lot.
And it was done in such a respectful way.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
I was just proud of everybody that was there, including our track coach.
Yeah, he spoke. He spoke. Oh yeah.
I was so proud of him to have the courage to get up in front of that group and talk from the heart. And he said, "Well, I didn't really have anything prepared." And I said, "It came from the heart, and that means a whole lot more than some written speech."
I can't say how much I appreciate you stopping by and sharing.
Fun, man.
I look forward to doing more of this, and I'm glad you took me up on that offer.
I'm glad I did too.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Yep.